So, this trip I took to Boston was a much needed trip. It was a much needed vacation. And this is kind of funny because I'm sitting here thinking about this, and I feel like so many of the videos that I make on this channel are like super serious, you know. And I don't really mean for it to come off that way, in the sense that they're all just like these super contemplative videos. Um, but when I'm left to my own devices, these are the kind of things that I think about. And I think it's important to do that. I think it's important to think about ways to better yourself, to better your life, to find a way to make yourself a better person. But I was sitting downstairs, like between the trip to Boston, I was thinking about that earlier today, and I was sitting downstairs and I was watching Key and Peele episodes. Which I don't know if you guys do that, but sometimes like I'll go on YouTube and just kind of let YouTube be YouTube and just sort of wander through videos. If you go long enough, you end up on the weird side of YouTube. But the dark recesses, the place where it's kind of like, what the hell did I just get into right now? I've seen some of those videos where like you watch the videos and you're like, okay, that's enough internet for today, and you just turn the video off and you close down your browser and then you just go and read a book or something like that. But nonetheless, I was watching this Key and Peele skit, and it was the Old Black Man Magic episode. And I don't know how many of you guys ever saw that. It was this hilarious skit where there's like this white dude in this office, and it's like his girlfriend's moving out or leaving or something like that. And Jordan Peele walks in, and he kind of like, what is it? He talks about, he's like, I'm just here to clean up your garbage, and he says it's something along the lines of the more garbage there is, the better it feels to dump it out. And he's like, maybe that's why we allow it to fill up the way it does. Now, the skit was designed to be comedic. It was designed to hit at the idea that, like, old black men have magic. That old wise black men have, like, some kind of magical power or something like that, which is pretty funny. But I started thinking about that skit, and I started thinking about that line, which I'll do from time to time. I'll hear something or I'll read something, and I'll just kind of, like, think about it and stew on it for a while. Sometimes for, a few minutes, sometimes for, like, half a day or multiple days. And as I thought about that, I was like, there's so much truth to that the more we let things fill up, the better it feels to dump it all out. And maybe that's why we do it. And that's kind of the cool thing. He said, because, it's it gives us the feeling of starting over, is what Jordan Peele's character said. And I think about that and I say, maybe that really is the case. Here's kind of a funny thing. For us as people, I don't know about you guys, but for me as a person, I have this tendency to get caught up in my own head a lot of times. I'll analyze a circumstance to the point where I'll get swept up in it. And I won't be able to see the forest for the trees. As far as I'm concerned, it's all just one great big huge mess. And that can be a good thing, and it can be a bad thing. It can be a good thing because it allows for introspection. It can be a bad thing because you can get lost in yourself, and then you can start seeing things that aren't there. And it creates a weird situation because I feel like we do that a lot. Like a lot of people do that. It's so often. And that's kind of the beauty of having a great friend. And this is kind of getting into the topic of Boston. That's the beauty of having a great friend. The closest friend I have on the planet, the best friend I have on the planet at this moment right now is Daniel. He lives out in California. I've known Daniel for 15 years, for a long time. And while I haven't known him as long as I've known like Dustin and Yates and Sloan and Paulus and all those guys, the friendship he and I have are stronger than the friendship I have with him. Just because Daniel was there during the best times and Daniel was there during the worst times. And our friendship has been through the ringer. I mean, the kind of things our friendship has been through are outside the scope of this video. And those are things that I won't talk about because, in reality, that involves Daniel as much as myself, and it's not my place to kind of bring that part of his life into the public domain. But there was a point for a year when we didn't talk to each other. Imagine that, your best friend on the planet, you won't talk to him for a year. I mean, at the time, he wasn't really the best friend I had. He was just a really, really good friend. But after getting back together, not really getting back together, but after reconciling, and realizing why it was that we weren't talking to each other, we kind of had to do a lot of soul searching. And so one of the things that we would do is we would drive around town for like 3 or 4 hours in like the middle of the night. We'd get together at like 10 o'clock. And we might go to like Thornton's, or we might go to like Speedway, because we had a ton of Speedway points because we always got gas there. We'd get like hot dogs or like a Diet Mountain Dew or something like that, and we would just drive around town for like 3 or 4 hours and just talk about things. Like whatever happened to bother us, we would talk about politics. We'd talk about all kinds of stuff, all kinds of things. And it made our friendship a lot stronger, because we started kind of breaking down barriers. People, even with our best friends, we kind of have a tendency to put like barriers up, to put walls up, right? Like you're my best friend, but there are certain things that I will not talk to you about. With Daniel and I, it wasn't like that. Like we can talk about anything, about everything. The only thing that really comes into play is how comfortable would the person that I'm talking about be with me talking about them in this capacity. That's really the only thing that gets into that, gets into that scenario. But yeah, no. So we're in Boston, and we're talking about like life, the universe, and everything. We did not arrive to an answer of 42. For those of you guys who get the pun, whoever read or saw Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, that was a great series of books, and the movie was pretty good, But the Zaphod Beeblebrox. Oh my God, that was a great movie. Sam Rockwell was awesome in that movie. But nonetheless, he's got a towel. I'm sorry, that movie's just so quotable. There's so many great quotes from that movie. But anyway, so we're sitting in Boston. We're in Boston, and we're walking along like Commonwealth Mall, which is this amazing place. Like it's got like these overhang trees, and it leads into Boston Commons, which if you guys ever saw like The Patriot with Mel Gibson, and they were shooting scenes where like they were in the Boston area, and you had like the Boston colonies and the British and all that kind of stuff, and they're walking along and all those different things, that's where a lot of that stuff was shot. A lot of those films that deal with like the Revolutionary War era and the colony era of the United States in the Boston territories, like that's where you see a lot of that stuff shot in film form, is in Boston Commons. But we're walking along, and we're just talking about things. We're talking about like what we want to do and where we want to go, and what direction our life is taking, and so on and so forth. And it really just comes down to a recognition of the best laid plans of mice and men, that in this life that we live, we have this tendency to like regiment and structure things, and to say, my life, like this is my life right now, and this is the direction that I want it to go in. And then something happens, and it just changes entirely, and it comes out of left field, and you never see it coming, you never expect it. It's like getting hit in the head with a softball, which I use that example because when I was in middle school, there was this girl during gym class. She would always just kind of goof around. She would never pay attention. And then this kid like Arlie Rose or something like that hit a softball and like smacked her in the side of the head with it. Didn't even mean to, but it was just like boom, and it was kind of funny. But nonetheless, the best laid plans of mice and men. The best things come out of nowhere. And that's kind of the beauty of this whole situation that I got out of. Kind of the silver lining is, honestly, coming out of that, it was a bit of panic. It was a bit of, well then shit, like what do I do? Like for example, with Comics Explained, and this has really kind of turned into like a general diatribe, but with Comics Explained, when that channel first blew up, the idea was, okay, like this is a sustainable source of revenue now. Well, here's my 3 goals. I want to be able to buy a house outright, and I want to be able to have enough money set aside for retirement, and I want to be able to pay off any debts that I have. They were minimal, but it was like any debts that I have, I want to have those paid off. I didn't expect those goals to be achieved as fast as they were. So then when they were achieved, then it turned into, well, now what's next? And finding someone to spend my life with was always something that I wanted to do. It was never a need. That was a desire. But with everything kind of happening the way that it did, it was just kind of like, man, my response was, well, then the hell with it, and I'll just gotta go do whatever I want to do. And I'm talking to Daniel, and Daniel's just kind of like, your desire to travel to a different country every 2 months, that's a knee-jerk reaction. Like, that's you reacting to a circumstance that you just didn't like the way it ended. Some people lash out, they get angry. Other people just sort of retreat into themselves. You spend money wildly. And he's like, that's not the most unhealthy thing because you can. But in reality, you have to settle on finding a goal and figuring out what makes you happy. And that's the important thing about having good friends, guys. That's the important thing about having good friends, is having someone in your life that can look at you objectively, that can look at you and see you as the world sees you, as opposed to you, seeing you as you see yourself. Because we look at ourselves, and depending on our frame of mind, we might see ourselves in a very negative way, We might see ourselves in a very positive way, but we will never see ourselves in an objective way. It just doesn't work. It doesn't happen. It's not who we are as people. We always only ever see the best or worst of ourselves. It's not a general, well-rounded view. And having a good friend to do that is one of the most important things for us to have. And so over the course of this Boston trip, it was a question that was asked, what do you want? Like, what do you want, Rob? And right off the bat, I want a great woman. Like, I want a great woman, like a fantastic woman in my life that I can rely on, that can make me a better person, and I can make her a better person. That's something that I've always wanted. After that, I want to travel the world. Like, I want to go see things. Like, I want to, I don't want to live and die by Comics Explained. I like the channel, but I don't want to feel like I live to make content for that channel. I want to feel like I make content on that channel to live and go see the world. Those are things that I kind of want at the moment. After that, like, it's whatever. And so I sat down and made a whole bunch of goals for myself, blowing up Instagram, which a lot of you guys for the Comics Explained Instagram would probably notice that, the 1 minute origins, 1 minute powers, different things like that. Just kind of going through and working on all these little side projects and things like that. But yeah, it's, things like that whole situation that I went through are good. They're, as much as they suck, there's silver lining there, because it's kind of a giant reset button that you press. You say, okay, so this didn't work out the way that I wanted it to. Was it something that I did? Was it something that was unavoidable? Was it something they did? Was it just an inevitable thing? Was it because we were just so caught up in the moment, we didn't really stop to look around and see what was actually going on? Whatever the circumstance is, it gives you a chance for some introspection. It gives you a chance to sort of look at the circumstance around you, see it for what it is, and then move forward accordingly. Sort of, reconsolidate what it is that you want out of life, and then move forward accordingly. And that's what I've done. I've sat down and I say, okay, look, a fantastic woman is what I want. That's a thing that I want, or I guess a person that I want. After that, it's traveling and just going to see things and enjoying life. Having enough money set aside, so on and so forth. That's kind of a given. But I want to get out there and live in ways that I haven't had a chance to do yet. And so that's I guess is really the moral takeaway from this. The moral takeaway from this whole thing. You guys are going to come across circumstances like this. And what those circumstances are unique to you. It could be you fail a college semester. It could be that you have to leave college. It could be that you get fired from a job. It could be that you get divorced. It could be that, God forbid, you lose like a child or a husband or a wife or a loved one or something like that. Whatever the situation is, it will irrevocably shake your life in a way. Like so many circumstances that came before that and so many circumstances that come after that, it's going to shake your life. It's going to shake your confidence. It's going to shake your self-image. But how you recover from that, that's the important thing. That's the important thing for you as a person, to be able to move forward accordingly and do your own thing. But nonetheless, I feel like I'm kind of rambling in this video, not really. Maybe I don't really have a point here, but I think these are kind of the best videos. I just sort of let my mind wander a little bit and just talk to you guys about things. But yeah, no, just take it one day at a time, guys, and don't stress. That's the worst thing you can do is stress. But with that being said, guys, we're going to bring this video to an end, and I will catch you all later. Peace.